I'm here interviewing Ruth Ridgley, a New Windsor resident who attended the New Windsor School from 1st to 12th grade. Let me just ask you, how you got to school?
How did I get to school? Well,
Yes.
my father, dairy farmer, would take his cans of milk every day to a collection spot at Snyder's store in Sam's Creek. And so we timed it so that we would be there in time to meet the bus. Bus driver was, can't remember. Anyway, so we were able to get a ride to the school bus in the mornings, and in the evenings they'd let us off at the end of Oak Orchard Road, and we would walk our mile home. And we didn't have Mama to come pick us up unless it was pouring down rain, or a terrible snowstorm or something like that. Not an everyday thing. That's how we got to school.
All right. What do you remember about like your early years at school? Like if you remember your first day or your first year, what about it? Do you remember?
First year in first grade, our teacher was Miss Nottingham, and yes, we did learn to read, and we learned some arithmetic, and I remember flashcards, very much so, in the learning process. Second grade was Mrs. Obrecht, and she, if we would get there early, we could go talk with her while she was preparing the lesson sheets for the day using a mimeograph machine, using purple. I mean, our papers would be with that purple ink. Back up, our bus driver was Mr. Myers.
Okay.
And Mr. Myers was our bus driver from the entire time.
Okay.
For the 12 years. And I'm sure I don't know how much longer he was the bus driver, but he was a very familiar face.
Well, good. Now you said she was using the mimeograph machine. Was it actually in the classroom with you?
Yes.
Or? Okay.
Each teacher had their own mimeograph machine.
Okay.
And she would run those papers off. And I particularly remember one morning being there, and she was running off a poem called October Skies. And she had us memorize poems. And I think we probably memorized poems, a new poem, at least once a week. And that was in second grade. And they were more than one verse long. And going on through, I guess, my elementary school years, I had teachers that I really liked. There was Miss Lampert, and there was Mrs. Huffman, I think. And Miss Ivy was the principal of the elementary school. And she had, this of course was during the war, and World War II. And she would teach us, the ones that didn't know how to knit. And we would make scarves for the soldiers. And another project I think that Miss Ivy was responsible for was that she challenged us all to go out and collect milkweed pod fluff. And that was used then for stuffing life preservers for the sailors.
Okay.
So we were a part of, helping out in the war effort, as well as our adults around us.
And this was in 5th or 6th grade, I think?
5th or 6th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, both years at least. And then going into 7th grade was high school, and we called it high school. And that was a big step. Boy, we weren't little kiddies anymore. And it was really fascinating. We got to change classes. which previously we were in a classroom all day long with the same teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And did you like that better, being able to change
Oh
classes?
yeah, that was a lot more fun. That's big stuff.
Yes.
Big stuff.
Now, did you play any sports in high school?
Sports, yes, I played. I mean, we had our phys ed program, but I never played on teams. But I did do cheerleading.
All right.
Did do cheerleading, and had fun doing that. Mostly for basketball games. And one little story is that we were playing a championship game, I think, and it was a school from Howard County, Lisbon High School. And just so happened that my husband played on that team. And my husband of today played on that team, but I had no recognition or no, I was cheering for New Windsor all the way, and I just didn't care about Lisbon. And it wasn't until my senior year in college that I actually met up with him. And then he tells me the story of, in our conversations of, well, I used to be a cheerleader at New Windsor, and he said, well, I played there. So, he's my husband today, and we have recently, just last year, celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary.
That's fantastic.
With 3 children, 8 grandchildren.
Wow.
And actually 10, and 1 great-grandchild.
Wow, that is fantastic. And you've been born and raised in New Windsor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and I am actually live on the same farm that I grew up on, and am 4th generation in that family line that live on the farm.
Mm-hmm. And then while you were here at New Windsor attending school, was there anything specific that you remember? Anything that you ate at the cafeteria, or anything you'd like to?
Oh yes. Whenever you go through we were going through the cafeteria, what was the old cafeteria when I was attending this school. It was always a wonderful day when it was announced that sticky buns would be available. Miss Helen was our cook, and she would make sticky buns at least once every 2 weeks or something to that effect. And sticky buns were only a nickel. And we didn't always have that nickel in our pocket, but we could get a sticky bun and bring the nickel the next day.
Okay.
She made wonderful homemade sticky buns.
So she made them here?
Made them here in this kitchen, yes.
Now, how did you know it was Sticky Bun Day? Was it a smell? Like, did it smell, or was it more like word of mouth?
Well, it got so that they were so well liked, I think that it was kind of word of mouth came around through the day before or something like that. So we would always ask for our nickels before leaving home. I had 2 brothers that were right along with me. One was John, was in the year class ahead of me, and I had Jim was in the class behind me.
Okay.
2 other brothers that came along later.
Now, did they all go to New Windsor from 1st grade to 12th grade?
Yes. Well, except for, no. Well, 2 of them did, and one went over to Frederick County to Frederick High School in his junior year, Jim, and David was in the last graduating class from New Windsor High School.
Okay.
And then I have another brother who was in the first graduating class at Francis Scott Key.
All right. And then, so you graduated here from New Windsor.
Yes.
And then, about how large was your graduating class?
Well, I was just looking at the yearbook, but I didn't count. And seems to me I remember about 26 26, 27.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to thank you for participating, and we've really enjoyed listening to you today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I enjoyed touring and seeing what differences and trying to make out what classroom that was. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.